Good afternoon, welcome back after lunch. Now we continue with an interesting session. It is about how art can support this work, these activities in the 3 territories. And I kindly ask Andrea Kasztler, she will lead you. She is the chair of the session through this program now. I have already introduced her. So then, have fun now.
So, hello. I hope you're not too tired now after lunch. It was not too much, I guess. I hope so. So, may I invite all the session members to come here? And so, please take a seat here. So, we will have a common presentation shared between the participants, and after this we will also have some questions, and you are then also invited to ask your questions. This session now is trying to highlight one certain element that was addressed in the previous session. So, how could this work? How could this co-creation process work? How could these stakeholders, so many people, find one language? How could they create one narrative? And I think this is a big challenge, and art supporting this process in creating common identity, common language, common pictures, tries to address this topic. So I will now introduce the first 2 colleagues who do the first part of the presentation. So Ángel Honrado is the CEO of WeDo, and he has high expertise in planning and the management and implementation of multidisciplinary and collaborative projects, also many of them in the European context. And he's he's also joining and also co-founder of a new startup developing neuroprotective treatment after stroke. So, very interesting. Beside him is Mario Magaña. You have heard that he is the creator of all of these beautiful sketches you can see here. Mario is the communications manager at WeDo. He is really an expert in project communication, graphic design, and visual thinking. He holds a Bachelor in Art and a Master's degree in Corporate Communication, and at WeDo he's the Director of Communications. So he has a lot of experience in visual communication and design. So please, Mario, the floor is yours.
Okay. Yes. Good morning, everyone. My name is Mario, and it's possible that I'm the worst English speaker in this room, and I'm really nervous. So I imagine me give a presentation about communication is a mistake, a really mistake. But I really think the mistakes is a great place to start. You know, when I will give you a little bit of context. Before working in this project, I was working with Myhrén in Styria, so I did the communication of a really similar project. So this project have 3 territories, and coming from the RRI approach, and yes, And so I was really sure I can do it, the communication of the DigiTeRRI project. And in my second tweet, I received this email. Take your time. So, yes, I know. When I wrote the email, that was my face. So, why? And the answer is really, really simple. I thought my background was enough, and I forgot to listen the necessities and the sensibilities of each territory. So that was the reason I was wrong, and for that reason we create the comms and social media group that Angel is going to explain. That is mine. I'm going to come back.
Sure. Don't worry, I'm going to touch this. So, yeah.
Yes, give me a second.
There we go. So, yeah, so actually we created the comms and social media group as a way of listening on one side, but not only listening, but involving the territories in the development. So as a true co-creation approach of the communication in the project. So that was actually the basis for this. And I'm gonna yes. So everything's pointing to the same. Yeah, good. So this is how the comms and social media group look like. Actually, there is. The coordinator, Myhrén, was already there to ensure there was alignment with the overall project strategy. That was very important. And it was, of course, besides Mario and myself, who were actually the leads of the communication work package in the project, there was a representative of each of the different territories acting, representing the voice of the different stakeholders. So we could consider this as a bottom-up approach from a territorial perspective. They were in some cases consulting at local level. There were different actors, and those reflections and ideas were brought to the table. So the idea is to have a table where we were actually having all the voices represented, and that the communication of the project was considering all the sensitivities and the specificities of the different territories, as Mario said. And that happened to be a very, interesting process where this is the usual, improvement, or quality improvement process in every process, actually, or activity. Basically, this was somehow implemented like this. So we were outlining a monthly plan on how we thought communication should go, and always with the focus on the different territories, and this was presented to the comms and social media group, where we actually had a discussion of this monthly action plan, where there were new ideas, and there were actually, some of those sensitivities were brought into the table in terms of language, in terms of approach, in terms of images, and probably, Mario will reflect on that later on. So how the visual representations of concepts were so important depending on the territory. That's because that was not about words, it was about, conveying complex ideas and concepts into something that was supposed to be there, representing a whole idea behind. And that was a very interesting discussions taking place there. In some cases, each territory were actually requesting specific things, and we were sharing best practices. When those things were implemented at territorial level, they were bringing to the meetings how things were, what feedback they got, and what could be improved. And that's how we were actually co-creating and agreeing the monthly plan and associated tools. And from that, actually, every month, there was this process that somehow was, at the beginning, complex to establish, but then, working quite smoothly with different people coming in and out at some point, because, in a 3-year project it happens, but definitely the process has been very enriching, and for us, definitely, but I'm assuming also for the territory, they will explain. And that's it from my side.
So now it's my turn, not as a chair session, but as a session member, because Mario created the presentation, but insisted in us to join him in presenting, because he said this was a co-creation, and so he wants us, all of us, to talk about this. Um, so, co-creation, yeah. What does it mean? So we started our journey, as you said, in the DigiTeRRI Project, and I remember it was Marianne's idea at the beginning to invite Mario to come there to the workshop, and she said, Mario, you just, you just sketch what you see, what's going on, and you sketch about the dynamics and the whole workshop, and so you're there and you're making visible what we are doing. And it sounded quite simple. And then Mario was there and he started to sketch beautiful pictures, and he watched the people there who had discussions, the stakeholders, and they were on the tables, and then he came to me and said, Andrea, what are they doing? He knew, of course, about the process and so on, but then it was very important to have this self-reflection initiated by him to focus on what are we doing here. And for me, it is an interesting story about never to forget in an RRI process to have self-reflection, and through this approach, trying to sketch an image on what's going on here, we are really forced to make clear what's this all about. Yeah, and this was the beginning of a common journey where we tried to, in many in a dialogue, to find out about what's going on in the groups that are discussing. Of course, we knew the process around, but we did not exactly know about the stories the people were telling each others. So building these common narratives within the groups who were discussing, and then again within the big groups, this was a very interesting and challenging process. And as René addressed it, how could you manage then, it's now in DigiTeRRI, to come up with one story at the end, one vision? And I think that art supported was one element besides the very structured process Marianne provided, guiding through this. Also, art support did a support here. And here is written the summary in English. I think it's not only just a summary, but it's a co-created narrative. And a narrative leaves space for interpretation, and it's not fixed. And that's, on the one hand, that's the disadvantage, but it's also an advantage. So now I hand over again to Mario, as COVID changed the situation within the DigiTeRRI project a lot.
Yes, because before COVID, I arrived to the workshops, and Andrea helped me to do the sketches, but with the COVID, all the system changed. So the territories organized the workshop and then prepare a summary, and then they send me the idea, and I prepare some sketches, and then I send the sketches to them again, and then come back me the ideas, and then I come back with the sketches to them, and then come back to me with ideas, and then I come back with the sketches to them. And in one moment, in that iteration, there are moments that we finally prepare the final view, and then we prepare in the local language, and then we share the visions. So that give us a really long process, but give us the option to create really different for the three territories. For example, in the case of Värmland, they decide to do something more realistic. For example, in the case of Region Grand Est, they decide to change depend of the stakeholders. So we move to one side from the other. And in the case of Styria, that was idea of Julia, we did a comic style. So now it's your turn, Per.
Just 1 second, please. Thank you, Mario, because I have to introduce Per Myhrén. He is project manager at the paper province in Värmland in Sweden. Per holds a degree in business administration from Karlstad University in Sweden. He has a long history of working with service development and service innovation in companies and other organizations. At Paper Province, he works as an innovation counselor, supporting innovators and companies, and he's also involved in projects on servitization. Please, Per, the floor is yours.
Yeah, as mentioned earlier today, you saw the final result of the vision for Värmland, as demonstrated and shown by Eamon. But I will take you back to the work behind the vision, and especially how we could add the graphics from Mario to give it also another dimension for the words, so to make it easier to communicate for our to our stakeholders. We were really thrilled to have 73 participants in this first workshop, because it was the first major interaction with the stakeholders in Värmland, and it was a digital one. So we was really happy to have so many people involved in this work. And it was not just 73 people. They were really interested in giving their thoughts about how we could produce this vision together. So we had a lot of information to process after the workshop, and everything started to sort of how can we organize this in different categories and label them with the suitable names. And in the end, we ended up with what you can see here. This is in Swedish. You have the Swedish and the English translations over there. Maybe you can see some of it, I don't know. But we can divide the vision in 3 parts. The first picture and the text related to that is more about attractiveness, attraction, and attractivity. It's about bringing people to Värmland, to sustainable region. The middle part of the vision is more about the digitalization and digital transformation, and how we can build capabilities and capacities related to that in different perspectives. And the last picture and the text related to that is more like an outcome. If we can attract people to Värmland, if we can build capabilities and capacities for digitalization and digital transformation, then we can achieve the things that we can find in the bottom of the vision. So we had a bulk of text, and then we realized there are some more important words in this vision, and we need to highlight them. So what you can see in green is the keywords for the vision, and we need to have some kind of description for each of and every of these keywords. So we had some 6-7 sentences describing all this. It's not so easy to communicate all this in descriptions. So we sent it over to Mario. You had the bulk of text, and you also got the descriptions of the keywords, and then you start to work. We had one first version, and we didn't like the characters, because it was not in line with how we wanted to communicate with other documents in Värmland. So we just changed that, and then we started to talk about what Värmland is, and I think we sent you some YouTube films. Yeah. And then everything fell into place just like that. Because what's in the first part is making Värmland attractive to visit, both as a tourist and maybe to come and stay in Värmland. And what can be more sustainable to come to Värmland to go on the timber raft on the river, making you are the engine for this transport. So it's a very sustainable way to transport yourself, being part of the Värmland experience. And the middle part is more about the inclusiveness of bringing everybody together, about digital competence, how we can sort of produce that within Värmland, and also how we can embark on the rapidly changing future. And we all have also huge companies in Värmland. They are marketing leaders present on the global scene. They are very important for us. They bring in industrial investments to Värmland. And if we can bring people to Värmland, and we can build the capacities for digitalization and digital transformation, then we can make them stay in Värmland, and we can make the companies to grow. So therefore we let's see if we can find it here. We act globally and we grow locally. And then we have Värmland as a quality of life, living in Värmland, but you have the whole world as a working place. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Per. So as you see, this presentation follows also the process steps that have been followed. So this was an example from Värmland regarding the vision and how art supported this. And the next step in the process will come from an example from Stéphanie Toussaint is project manager at Grand Ine in Grand Est territory in France. She has expertise in the implementation of management, monitoring, and regional reporting systems. For example, customer relationship management or business intelligence. And within the innovation and attractiveness agency of Grand Est, she is involved in innovation projects, works on information analysis, and collaborates closely with foreign partners on European projects like this one. Please, Stéphanie, may I ask you to tell about your insights about art supported the process.
Okay. Okay, so good afternoon, everybody. I just would like to come back about the roadmap process. Just to explain you, it's the middle step between vision and action plan. And it's a strategic development plan built by each territory towards a responsible digital transition. So yeah, for us, it's really a co-creative, a collective work. We have done, of course, with Materalia, University de Lorraine, and of course Gantinov, but also with stakeholders. So it's external people which work with us to create our ideas and have different opinion, vision about the roadmap. In Grand Est region, it was too online, only I would say only because due to the COVID context, it was not possible to realize physical workshops. But it was also a change for us, this online session, because we had more than 50 people which participate at this workshop. And it's important to remind you that stakeholders are people from different structures, different categories, named quadruple helix. So it was, as Brigitte said before, it was also a challenge for us to attract different people from different categories. And Grand Est region, it's a big region. So online workshop was an opportunity for us to attract people from different places. So we developed 5 objectives, which are, the first one, enable You need to be concentrate, because after you will have a short quiz. So, the first objective is enable all talents in the grand test to seize the opportunities provided by the digital sectors, creating the conditions for the development of responsible digital services and products, developing new forms of collaboration, increasing social responsibility as part of a digital transformation process, and giving as many people as possible the opportunity to discover digital technology. So my question is, which objective is represented on this picture? If I say enable all talents in the grand test to seize the opportunities provided by the digital sector, which ones, please? Yes. Second, giving as many people as possible the opportunity to discover digital technologies. Where? This. Yes. And the last. And the last is creating the condition for the development of responsible digital services and products. So it was also a challenge for us with WeDo, because it was, I did it for you because just to show you, we wanted with our objectives, we wanted to, with pictures, with this illustration, it's important to us to explain our messages by graphic, by illustration. Especially for external people, because this graphic, it's not only for us, for person from the project, but it's also for grand test citizens, grand test population. So it's important with this illustration to show our message. And especially in this kind of project, complex projects, between research, innovation, science, is not an easy way to communicate with external people and attract them. So for me, we succeed with WeDo, and especially with Mario, to translate our message by this illustration. Unfortunately, we have some different interpretation, but I think in Grand Est region, we succeeded to attract people thanks with this picture. So I would say art, it's really important because it's a common language, in fact. We have to explain our message between different partners from different countries, from different languages, and just by showing some picture, we can be easily understood. We wanted to explain this picture. For us, it was important to create ludic pictures to attract citizens, students, young people. I would say also it's a tool, a special tool, which could be used by an icebreaker approach for team building, and for online session, it's really important. And I think also it's pictures, illustrations make the difference, especially on social media, because we used this illustration to of course communicate on social media, and we make the difference with this project and this illustration. So I would say thank you thank you WeDo, thank you Mario, because I learned a lot with art, with illustration, and it helped us a lot to attract people, and especially citizens and young people. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stéphanie, for these insights. And now we come to the next, the last step in the process, which will be presented by Julia from Styrian territory. So Julia Schmidbauer, she's project manager in the field of technology transfer at Montanuniversität Leoben. She holds a bachelor degree in mineral resources engineering and a master's degree in tunneling sciences. Sorry, this changed the direction. And she had many experiences in the last years. She was in several tunnel construction sites and gained experiences there. And currently she works at the Technology Transfer Center at Montanuniversität Leoben, and she was also deeply involved in the DigiTeRRI Project. And so now, may I beg you to tell us about your insights. Julia.
Thank you. Yes, good afternoon. Yes, as a tunneling engineer, it was for me a big challenge, and I was lucky to jump into this project. It was very interesting, and before we did the alignment with Mario about the art, we always had to do the alignment in our Styrian group. So I may talk today about the actions, but there was much more involvement. So for each step which we did in the project, when we got a workshop, when we did roundtables, we always had to align with Mario for the dissemination part also. And as English is not my mother language, I cannot be always so precise. And Mario is not in the Styria, so the context, I had to explain the context every time. And so we learned from time to time to communicate better. And as you can see on the slide, there are 3 examples. So Mario had for us also to attract the stakeholder, which should be engaged. And for me, there was an action I did with Franz. It was about a concept development of a digital platform. And there we had to do the alignment with several companies, also with City of Linz and with the city in Bruck an der Mur. And then we talked with Mario, and we had the idea to do it with a comic, to catch the people also with fun, and to explain in a comic what the platform should be about. And here he supported very well. And the second you can see was the training for international online fairs. So it's different, and it did meet the context that we did an online training. So first we planned again how we want to do it, and in the second step we talked with Mario, and he did the illustration and all the dissemination and promotion, and it's also very, very well. And the third action, it's about the female empowerment in the Styrian. There we had the COVID situation, so we had to do the event online, which was managed very well by Bridget. And so you see 3 complete different styles. And we are really lucky to have Mario because of the attraction of the stakeholders. So I think it was a good journey. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Julia. Thank you so much, all of the speakers. And I think it has been highlighted well. And you also mentioned this at the end now, Julia, that there were so different styles in your pictures. And this is hard work, and was really hard work for all of you to find a common language at the beginning, and then to create common pictures that fit for all who are involved, and especially for the stakeholders, so to create identification. And so I would like to ask maybe one question, and then we'll open. Yeah. Once again, you close. Yes, please, Mario.
Okay, so is the lesson learned, my lesson learned. So if you include more diversity in the co-creation process, these processes are more acceptable, more powerful, and it's more legitimate. The first one. The second one, local needs are to be considered, including the local language. For me, that is really important. To be more engagement to all of your citizens, employees, and stakeholders. And the last one, art is not a packaging, art is light. Help to understand complex concepts in a simple way. And the other one is, if you are going to do this kind of journey, that this project, you need to enjoy this journey with excellent people, like all the people that was involved in this project. And a lot of people say, Mario helped us to that, but she helped me to do this, and I'm a team, you know, so thank you to Veronica, to Ada, to Marina and Manuel, because all these people are work in all these images and all this process. So thank you. And
thank you so much, Mario. So then I would like to ask the question first to, may I ask you, Ángel, if you think the whole project would have been done without this, without art supporting it. So which difference do you see that was created? Does it work? Yeah. That was created within the process and also for the project outcome.
Well, that's a very interesting, well, that's what if, right? But it's a very interesting question. Definitely the project would have been very different in terms of the outputs. I think that's something we've learned, and we had the chance to discuss with Mario and with Mireia that, we learned, in those years that visualization, it's acting as an enabler. And I think eventually, this probably has unfolded, some discussions around concepts that probably, using the traditional word discussion process, some people might have felt disconnected, from some of the things that were being, discussed, as part of the vision and the roadmap and so on. So it would have been different, definitely. I think those pictures, and I'm really convinced those pictures might last longer than some words in some people's minds. So I think that's the power of the illustrations that we have developed. He has developed with the support of as I said, of the others. And I think that's an important legacy for the territories themselves. And I think that makes us think as well on the importance of involving this kind of visualization, or the visual thinking, on the visual representation in RRI projects as well, as a way of reaching out more people.
Okay, thank you very much. Does anyone maybe from the territories want to add anything?
Well, I can just mention one thing. Producing the vision illustration was the first cooperation we had together. So the first idea you presented was from the comic characters as Styria, and it was not the way for Värmland to go, because it was not in line with the other communication information material we have in the region. And I'm really surprised, and I think I talk for the whole Värmland team, how quickly you adapted to our way of thinking and how you just changed from that to find another way to express these the words, and how quickly you actually could understand what we wanted to say with the different words in this in the vision, and how you sort of actually picked up the right graphics to describe the things that was not so easy to describe just with words. So it was really impressive.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. So, as we have only a few minutes left, I would like to ask the audience if you have any questions regarding how art supported, please. Harald?
I like also to make a comment about Mario and Angel, because in our DigiTeRRI project we have the similar situation, and for me the really important changing is that you bring so many heart and warmness in the project. Normally we as a technician, or I as a technician, we are discussing only hard facts. What is to do, what is the timetable behind this, who we need, whom we need, and. So, and we go straight ahead to the target. But with you and the art designings, so many additional questions happens on the emotional phase. I remember on the aquarium, what you draw in the DigiTeRRI with the fishes and the plastic and all the sadness what we have in our daily work. And this changed a lot in my personal perspectives. This is what I want to add.
Very important point. Thank you, Harald, for this. Anyone else, please?
I don't have a question, but I have a comment and a little story to tell. I'm very happy to see this co-created presentation from you. I thought you might be interested to hear actually the story behind the term co-creation, because that term was coined by the European Commission back in 2013 in their innovation department, and it was officially launched on the first meeting on an expert group where I represented European SMEs in Brussels in February 2014 in a forum called the Knowledge Transfer Stakeholder Forum. The interesting thing, I remember it very vividly, was that term was met with a lot of skepticism, especially from representatives from big companies. They felt, I think, very insecure about what this was actually meaning. They saw that co-creation, most likely a very messy thing. So it's interesting to see now that 8 years later, it has been actually embraced by stakeholders, at least in this setting. So, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for this story. And it's a lot about stories and how our communication changes, how our processes change, and how our way of thinking and working adapts. And yeah, I think I have to close this session. Thank you very much, and see you.
Now we come to perspectives, considerations from outside DigiTeRRI Project. This session, this talks about business and how can business become responsible, some experience. And this session is chaired by Jean-Jacques. He is already well known here in the audience, so I don't have to introduce him anymore. And he will introduce you his panelists.
So that's, as mentioned by Myhrén, that you know a little bit me. So it's a real pleasure to be the chair of these sessions. Then we will discuss about central questions that how can business be more responsible? And in order to try to answer, and to have an answer from the different regions involved in the project, we decided with my colleagues that to give the opportunity of the 3 ecosystems in Austria, in Sweden, in France, to try to answer to these questions. And we have the chance today to have 3 top-level speakers, frankly speaking. That's why I asked to my panelists to join the table. So that's Harald, Patrick. Okay, fine. Well, that's most important is to let you the floor. So I will just give some key elements about your background. I will start with Harald. I think that's when I received your emails, I was impressed because we have no Jesus today. That's the Jesus of innovation is not able to join us, but he sent us a technology evangelist. And Harald, you have 40 years experience, coming from different positions in the industry, in cluster management, and then you work for the community in order to share this fantastic experience with companies, with universities. And you are currently working for EcoPlus, which is the innovation agency in Lower Austria. I think that the location of it's Eisenstadt. No? St. Pölten. Oh yeah, I need to revise my geography. I'm dead. So that's. Thank you for your participation, Patrick. So Patrick, I know Patrick for many years. Patrick is an entrepreneur, and more is fully in love of this city, Mulhouse. And he did something very fantastic. That's he co-created an ecosystem, which is a quadruple helix in Mulhouse, which is one of the French towns in which the modern industry was created during the 19th century. So that's a long, long history, and with the challenge to reinvent the industry in our region. So that, thank you for coming. I know that it was a little bit difficult, and that Austrian Airlines, it was not very easy to join Vienna today, but you succeed. So that's, we are very, very pleased to be, that you finally you join us. And because that's in RRI, we have to speak about gender equity, so it's difficult with 3 people that we have the 50-50. But we have the chance to have on board for this panel discussions Ingrid. Ingrid coming from Compar. Compar, I don't know if the good pronunciations, or Compare, I don't know. But Compar, that's it's an innovation agency in Värmland. And also you have a huge experience of working with companies, with all the ecosystems. And you are really a specialist of the interfaces between all the stakeholders. And we are very pleased to have you on board today to explain us that what are the challenges and how you work in Värmland. So I speak very too long, so that's I let the floor to you, Ingrid, for the next 10 minutes, and then to introduce that your organizations, how you work on this very interesting subject of how can the business be more responsible.
Thank you. I must admit something. I have not been part of DigiTeRRI. A month ago, I have never heard the word DigiTeRRI. So here I am with good timing for the closing conference, of course, to enjoying that. But I'm very impressed listening to all of you speakers all morning and to see what you have achieved during the project. I must say that this is really a good time to join DigiTeRRI and to be able to work with you. We have everything in place, so it's just time, I think, to roll up our sleeves and start working. With that said, the topic of this was how can we involve business to be more eco-responsible? And of course, today we have so many challenges. We have, as a business, aging population, lack of knowledge and competence. We have to work more harder and maybe in a different way with gender equality. More diversity, we have the green transformation, digital transformation, and cybersecurity, and all these pressures on the business. So how do we solve this, and how do we work with all these crucial challenges? My background has been basically working between the public sector and the private all along, basically with the pulp and paper industry, but also with government and non-profit organizations such as Compare. So Compare used to be a cluster. But this is a transformation, and I think Eamon was the one saying that we're on a journey, and Compare has also been on a journey for 20 years, starting out as a very regional cluster of companies, working with competence, working with their own business, so to speak. 20 years later, we're an innovation platform, working with science parks, innovations, and different things. And I think this is a journey that hasn't come to an end. It's just rolling on. And as I can see from DigiTeRRI, I think we're all on the same journey. We talk about triple helix and quadruple helix and pentahelix and numerous helixes. But it's important to see that we are in interaction with different parts. And we like to see ourselves as Compare in the middle of this. Of course, we are in the middle of the universe, everybody is. But to see how we can bring together both companies, academia, the private sectors, as well as entrepreneurs, new innovations with capital. And if we can get these connections going and see that all of them are important to do this journey together, I think we can work with different projects as DigiTeRRI to take steps to improve ourselves. We have also all the bubbles with tech. There's so many words and so many different tech. And one thing that Compare is now specializing in, it would be GovTech. We have an incubator and working with something called Digital Well Arena, and this is just one example how we can improve the companies to work together. Digital Well Arena used to be 2019, just a few companies working with 2 different parts of the academian world. And the public sector. And 2021, you can see just the dots how it's improved. And I think this is one example that we are on a journey not to work with just one region, but to expand ourselves, work to both national and globally. And this is something that I think we all can see that this transition is happening. And that's why we can do this collaboration together here today. So this is one important thing that we can see how we can work with the corporates. We also have, of course, the incubator and to work with ventures to bring capital to the new innovations. And to have mission-driven innovation is also important to see how can we bring all the parts in the pentahelix together and innovation support. But bringing back to speak about the companies, of course, we need to see both an upscaling when it comes to how to work more efficient, to bring new things, and also maybe new business models. But it's also about upskilling. I think we need to see how the competence needs to be changed. And I'm not talking about all the competence. It could be specific competence about how to work more with the green transition. And even if you might have a very high degree, you might to be upskilled anyway. And especially when you talk about new things such as, well, cybersecurity. 2 or 3 years ago, that was not the first topic you think about. Today, the world has changed. Same with electricity prices. We need to work in a different way and to find both new business models as well as new ways to challenge this. So I think upscaling and upskilling is really 2 important words to see. Collaborate with each other. And we have to find ways to make things easier. And I think as a platform, an innovation platform, I think that's one thing we can do to try to simplify things and to try to find common ways how to tackle things, to bring different companies together to see the challenges. So it's both about upscaling and upskilling. And about, as I said, the mission-driven innovations, a way to see how the actors can contribute solving complex challenges, such as the green transition. There is not only one answer. We need to find new ways to work, both to decrease the need of resources, but also how to work in the long run. So, of course, this is something that one person or one company cannot do by themselves. We need to work together. And of course, being in a company, it's usually very difficult to find the time or the money to do these transitions and to be on this journey. And I think this is also one of the challenges we have, to be inspiring and to simplify things and to get them on this train going to the journey. Because basically, what should be done for the companies: save the world, have fun, and make money. And if we can do that, then we have really contributed to a better world. So thank you.
Thank you. It's crystal clear. It's not very easy for me to think to the question that I will ask you in a few minutes. Now I let the floor to Harald. That's to have a vision from Austria.
This is not my presentation. This is yours, maybe, no?
It's a challenge.
They have changed, sorry.
It's not a problem. No, Marianne, it's not a problem. We will, no, because now we have PPT presentations. So, Harald, we will let Patrick, it's not a problem. No, but Harald, thank you very much. But in your presentation, you just show us that Mulhouse is the center of the world. Thank you very much.
If you move your mouse, I can speak, and I think it could be good. So I'm very proud to be here and to make a presentation of KM0. Some of you came in Mulhouse last year, and you already see what is it. So KM0 is a private project, and it's supported by the public sector, and it's really difficult to express what is it. It's a kind of incubator, it's a campus with training, it's also company hosting, and so this is, we like to say that it's a factory of projects, because what we are doing is to create new projects. The origin of KM0, oh, doesn't work. That's normal. When I'm up. Oh, okay, sorry. Ah, middle. Okay, if I don't press on the good one, it will be difficult. I can understand. Okay, KM0, the name is coming from the history. And as Jean-Jacques told you, we are in the heart of French Industrial Revolution. So we call it KM0 because it was the starting point of a railway between Mulhouse and Thann. Thann is 22 kilometers. It was a small industrial city. And the story is really interesting because it's a private project. They built this railway with private funds. And from the idea to the deliver, it took almost 30 months. So we are saying that we are in a very fast world, but at that time, they used to do something very fast also. So then they started to manufacture locomotives, and it became the first and the biggest French locomotive manufacturer. And it was the mother company of Alstom, Alsacienne of Thomson, and Alcatel, Alsacienne of Construction Atomique and Téléphonie. I'm telling you this story because what we are doing, it's really industry. We are not a digital place. We are really a place for transformation of industry. So, our DNA is to speed up industry digitalization or digital transition. And Steve Jobs used to say that the most important place in his company was a coffee machine. Because when someone from marketing meets someone from R&D, they have new project. So we built 11,000 square meter coffee machine, which is really big. And so we have, as I told you, schools, we have industry, big industry, we have incubator, fab labs, and all these people are in interaction, and they are doing new projects together. This is what I will try to explain you. So we are in a very nice area, very close to Basel, Freiburg in Germany, Strasbourg. So there are more than 4 million inhabitants around us, which is not bad. And so we have residents, and we call them resident. We have 950 residents who are coming daily to work or to learn in the KM0. You will have a presentation of 42. 42 is a school, very special school, because it's a programming school without teacher, without training course. So Caroline will come and will explain you how it works. And there is one, they opened one yesterday in Vienna. So we have one, and we have 400 students. Altogether, we have more than 600 students in KM0. So we have a drone school, R2D2. It's not a droid school, it's a drone school. And we don't teach how to pilot a drone, but how to program a drone and how to adapt it to industry. And we have also Village by CA. This is really a nice place. It's an accelerator managed by a bank, Crédit Agricole, which is a big French bank. We have incubator, and we have also fab labs. We have a lot of companies. I didn't display here. I don't display here the startups, but the biggest one. We have French, we have German, we have Belgium, we have English companies all together. And this is our building. So the first building at the top, it's where we have the companies. There is the coffee machine, we can say, which is in the center. And down, this is our work extension we are working on. So we opened in 2019, good date. 3 months after, we had to close it because of the COVID, but it's okay. We managed it. One of our secrets, we integrate a lot of companies around us. We integrate, we call it the Club des Locomotives. It's a project-based club. It's not how to train people. It's not a meeting point. It's not a Tinder for companies. It's really a project club-based. So the companies are coming here and they say, for example, I missed resource in computing, so we will find solutions. Or what is 5G? How can I integrate 5G in my process? How can I integrate 5G in my product? So we will find some solution or some project for 5G. We are working with IBM, Bouygues, a French operator, and we are opening 5G Open Lab. So companies can come there, test, and make some prototype on 5G. So our result, it's a real tool for transformation of territory. We have 100% occupancy. This is why we are working on an extension. Companies created 160 jobs. It's creation or attraction. So companies coming from abroad or from Paris or We have permanently 30 startups, and they are supported by the village or SEMIA, which is an incubator. And we have thousands, I should say hundreds of interaction between the resident and other companies. So this is really important, and I think it's really the success of the Chem Zero. What we learned, so do not believe people who say it will not work, because those who say that say now, oh, I was sure it will work. So do not believe them. Select the resident, it's really important. So we need residents who can understand the process, who can understand the project, and who are ready to be involved in the process. Choose the quality and not the quantity. It's important. We have to select companies and not to choose a lot of companies. Keep focus on your field of activity. We are doing industry. And become a bridge between networks. Networks is really important, but there is something more important. It's to be a bridge between all the networks. So now we are working on duplication of the Chem Zero. Jeremy knows that. And we have some project abroad. And for the moment, it's industry and digital. We can have industry and environment, or industry and energy, or industry and material. So this is something we are working on. And we are launching also a learning expedition at the Chem Zero. And last but not least, now we also created our own foundation. So it's hosted by the Foundation of France, which is a very well-known foundation. And it's not to finance the Chem Zero, it's to finance the student and the training, because we are offering free training in the Chem Zero, and we are offering free training for people who don't have, in German it's Abitur or Baccalaureate in French, and who are not good students, but they are really talented when they program something. So this is what we are doing, and this is a foundation we are just launching. And that's it.
Perfect demonstration of what is a quadruple helix. That's, I think that we'll use these presentations for courses at the university. It's very, very interesting. And now we have the good presentation, I think. That's, we have the pleasure now to let the floor to Harald as technological evangelist that will explain how he will do it. He's doing it.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Who knows for what the technology evangelist is responsible for? Is there anybody in the room who have an idea? No, okay. It's not so difficult. EcoPlus is the business agency of Lower Austria, and it's government-owned, and we have only one target: to support the companies with the best tools so that they are able to survive in our region and rising their businesses. At the end, we count the working places, what we are, sozusagen, as incubator, build up the basement. A technology evangelist have to take care that also in 10, 15 years, we also have such a strong position. Because what coming up, everybody from you is familiar. If you think holistic, climate targets, SDG, Green Deals, ESG in the finance sector, there are a lot of, let's say, dark clouds coming up for the production companies, for us as a society, and so on. And as a technology evangelist, I have the freeness from my company to think what is to do, what we have to do now, not in 5 years, not in 10 years, what we have to implement now, that in 2030, for example, a lot of our companies are transformed in the climate targets, which are 55% less CO2 emissions. Believe me, there is not really an idea in our region how we can solve this. But I will take care that we maybe create this idea. And for this, you need a lot of freeness. We heard a lot about the RRI process, how it works, and so I have the similar experiences in our project Styria, where we had 3 regions, one in Spain, one in Värmland in Norway, and one in Low Austria. And yeah, to invite the complete society in the workshop, from pupils to university professors, to scientists, to company owners, and artists, and so on, and work out a holistic view about all opinions to the topic. Our topic was plastic. And the biggest change in our opinions and in the company owners from plastic industry and representatives from organizations out of the plastic industry was one question, and Marianne and Andrea, very thanks to these questions. The question was, world without plastics, how it will be look like? Believe me, it was a question at first time when I hear this, okay, it could be a joke, never will be worked on out without plastic. What does this mean? But at the end, this gives us the possibility in the industry, in the plastic industry, to create a new thinking, a new model of thinking how circularity will, how necessary circularity for our business is. And I have here a lot of common aspects, what coming out, what is to do, typically technical results. So you can read it. I take one. Realistic price of environmental costs. What does this mean? A lot of the benefits in the plastic, of the earnings of the plastic industry based on socialized costs. So where the community take care at the end for this. Think on the waste, what is in the sea and the landfill and all this, but at the end, the taxpayer have to pay to recover this. And why this happens in our world, why we have so many plastic in the sea, why we have so many landfill, and the answer is, at the end of usage of plastic, there is no value in the waste. So, a lot of companies try to put away the waste, the plastic waste, as cheap as possible. And if they drop it in a river, it's away. And nobody have to take care what is next. But we as a society, we have at the end the problems. And all these costs have to implement it in the value chain business. And this is where I work for at the moment, to convince the raw material producers to implement the costs in their raw material price. At the end, plastic have a value from €2 a kilogram. One for bring away the sins of the past, what we have in the sea and in the landfill, and one to develop the necessary technologies to close the carbon loop. And what I mean with carbon loop, plastic is, let's say, stored carbon and hydrogen. And our world is full of plastic. And as long the carbon is stored in plastic, we have no problem in the atmosphere. When we start to burn the plastic, then we have the problem in the atmosphere. But if we take out the carbon from the plastic, from the waste plastic, and bring it on the other side to the raw material production, then we have a closed loop, a closed carbon loop, not a closed plastic loop. And in this, let's say, gap, what we do not have at the moment closed, there are only in Austria thousands of green jobs and high-end jobs, because these are all based on technology. And to get this ready, we found a foundation, the ÖCC2, it means Austrian Carbon Cycle Circle, where we try to find more members, convince the company owners and invite them to get this vision through. And when I speak here at the moment in Düsseldorf, the world's biggest plastic exhibition is present, and we have a really big own booth with round about 30 company members who provide to the public their solutions for this. Another experience, or another project, very short, is how we are able to transfer companies, production companies, in the climate targets. What is the role, what is my role in this? On the point, I invite them for a cooperation project. The targets are clear, minus 55% at the end, 2030. Find out where you stand now, share the results between all other project members. You see here some logos, and create the next step, not for 2030, but for tomorrow. And it's really a sad situation, because Putin, with the war in the Ukraine, was a real amplifier for the project, because this was a big, let's say, threat step in the ass, all our asses, because suddenly every company was try how we can survive without Putin's energy, without the gas and the oil and so on. And this is, at the moment, let's say, my main project, where I spend a lot of my work time, because we need immediately a lot of different new solutions. Some questions which are sticking in my brain, and I go only to the last one. Honestly, I am ready to change my own existence completely. Because if we talk about RRI and holistic thinking and all the ethics and all the gender situations and the climate targets, I remember one of my mentors, and he said, when I come with big ideas how we can create a new world and new business and so on. And he said to me, oh, it's very simple. We do not have the millions what you expected, but you have your own budget, you have your right hand, you have your left hand, and you have your brain. Go and just do it. And start with all the competences what you are able to manage. Not to try to convince other people. Go forward and invite the people who like to follow them. And this is the end of my presentation. Thank you very much, and I hope I can explain to you what the technology eventually is doing.
Thank you, Harald, for your presentations. It's clear that Mr. Putin, that he gives us a kick in the ass and oblige us to reinvent the way we are thinking our industry is working, and the question of energy is a central one, clearly, for all the European countries. So thank you for these very interesting presentations. That's it's very. I think that's you have in common that in all the presentations, you mentioned that the interfaces between the stakeholders, it's really important. And if you want really to succeed in digitalizations of our regions, we need to reinforce the interfaces. So I have naturally one question further your presentations. I am a company, okay, SME or not. What is the main arguments that you will give me to convince me to join your ecosystems, private or public? Harald, maybe?
The main argument what I'm really bringing is how you, or what you are expecting in 10, 15 years, where you are and what you are will producing. And are you really now in front of technology? You are a market leader or not? And how is your innovation rate at the moment? So I ask, let's say, technical questions and also questions in surviving and also earning money. A lot of companies what are in our cluster system, they have a earning rate from about 5 to 8% in average. And when we talk about digitalization, I had a big digitalization project 5 years ago. I asked them to increase by using digitalization tools by 5%, the earning situation, not the turnover. And you can believe me, a lot of company owners and managers said, okay, if you have an idea, I will hire you and pay you a lot of money. But I say it's not a question from me, it's a question how we start the transforming process. And I'll start with 15 companies, all big companies with more than 250 employees. And the result was that 10 of them had at the end more earnings than I expected at the beginning of the project. But what they have to change, a lot in the organization. The biggest change was a Doka company. It's a well-known company in Austria. They increased their employees by 40 people in digitalization and break down the complete organization and build up a new matrix organization form, which is working now worldwide from the headquarters out. It took 3 years, but at the end, the costs, what they had invested in comparison to the earnings, this was a winning earning situation because they had the payback in less than 1 year. And because so many things in the construction building happens, in the logistic, lot of parts are stolen on the, and so they can take care for this cost, they can save this cost, and this was at the end the earning. And I had a lot of examples of this, but the important is you need a project manager like me who take care that cooperation happens, that knowledge sharing happens, and that every company who is in the project have their own use case and is also willing to share the results with the other companies. And this is, believe me, a tough job, because if there is a, let's say, somebody believes now he have a earning situation found, and then nobody others should know this. And I take care that we discuss this very open. And this is the secret behind this. And trust and people, not companies, at the end responsible for the success.
Patrick, something to add?
Oh, yeah, maybe just a few words. I think when you are creating a company or when you are the manager of a company, you're alone. Somewhere you are really alone. So joining an innovation ecosystem will avoid to be alone. Don't be alone and go in a group of people, a group of company, and you will share your problem, your success, and your project.
Perfect.
Well, I was talking about mission-driven innovation, and I think it's interesting to, at this point, we can also call it crisis-driven innovations. Mentioned the pandemic, speeded up the digitalization. Energy prices are today, of course, speeding up the green transition, and Putin is speeding up the cybersecurity awareness. So I think it's important to see that companies are aware of all these things, the mega trends in the world happening. And even if you can say it's a joke, make fun of it, save the world, have fun, make money, to be serious about that, that's all what it's about, because all the changes you do, regardless if it's a process, a product, business models, you only do it as a company if you can save money or earn money, not something that would cost. That's not a driver. And it's also important too that you want to do good, you want to save the world, you want to be both when it comes to, of course, environment, but also to employees and society as such. So I think it's important to see that if we can find projects or missions that are mission innovation driven to save the world, have fun and make money, I think that's really what you have to be aware of.
Yeah, it's clear. I have a second question, maybe in 1 minute for each answers. That's what do you think about the impact of the COVID on your different regions and businesses? Is it something that leads people to left large cities and then to go to non-metropolitan areas, I will say it, or do you think that there's no impact for you?
I can start, because Värmland is not so high populated anyway, so we're kind of spaced out and living in the country. No, to see that, we can see that, of course, in some extent we had people moving more into their cottages, their summer home, their ski resorts. But I think that we were, in a way, in Värmland, hoping to see more people moving in and moving out from the urban cities. But so I don't really see. But we work more digital, and I think to save the world, we travel less. We go more meetings shortly instead of going to Stockholm by airplane or train. We stay and do short meetings by digital. So that's an improvement.
For us, Mulhouse was the cluster of COVID in France, so it was a little bit difficult for us. And I think we learn a lot about resilience, and that's really important. How to face the problem, and how we can work together to face a problem. This is maybe the main thing we learned from COVID.
So for me, there was a lot of changing happens through COVID technology-wise. 3 years ago, nobody was interested in video conferences. Everybody have their fixed office place where he starts between 7 and 9 to work and go home at 4 to 7. And a lot of all this was fixed part in a daily life. Now we are complete change system. We have now 2 to 3 days home office. It depends on how the infection rate is. We save a lot of time because in video conferences, where it's clear about what we talk, you can do 3-4 times a day a video conference. If you build up a process, a new project, then you have to go directly and have a face-to-face meeting. But also here in Styria, we learned it is maybe hard if you expect to go for travel and business, but it works also in a video conference. You get the message, you get the informations. And so, in my point of view, there was, like you comment, a big step forward in our society. And we are not in the end of this step, because next are the climate targets, and together with digitalization, with the targets, with our living situation, I'm sure a lot of changing in the next 5 years will happen in positive way.
So it's important to be positive. I will let the floor to the audience. Maybe you have some questions about these 3 or further these 3 presentations and the first exchanges we have.
Yeah, thank you for this session. Very interesting. My name is René van Schomburg. My question is on public-private partnerships. You didn't address those, but it seems to me very important, as was already mentioned in the session. Companies will not do something which in the end also not brings profit. I mean, rightly so. But the type of transformative changes we now need, of course, are of a nature that companies will not be able to make profit, at least not on the short term. And it seems to me that therefore public authorities have to become much more proactive in innovation than they have been in the last 20, 30 years. I mean, they actually withdraw very much from innovation processes. And I think it's now maybe a turning point for this. And also the shift towards competition among businesses, towards collaboration among businesses to some extent, of course, as required if we have to be successful in missions, can only be enabled if public authorities are part of this. And but I haven't heard much on this issue in the context of this conferences, also not in others. So I was wondering if there is not a black spot there, you know, that we should work better on public-private partnerships, where public authorities have a role in engaging a business, bring actually clusters together, and enable those actors to become responsible rather than waiting in the backseat.
So, would you like to comment the comments? Or?
You're absolutely right. In Austria, if you're a child, so you learn one thing very early. do not talk about money. And this is the biggest problem what we have in private partnership. So because the risk to lose money convinced 95% of all people, sage mal, not to invest. And we have at the moment not, let's say, the right tool, also from the government side, to overcome this situation. I try in my project to talk about money and then talk about earning situations in the company to the owners and managers and so on. And believe me, it is the hardest discussion because nobody wants to give their figures to the public and to me and so on. But just do it and maybe we will have a better situation in the next 5-10 years. So, and this is also the reason why we do not have a financial institution in our projects and so on. I want to have this, but on the other hand, go to a bank and say, I have an interesting project. Please join. You are the finance expert. They say, okay, if you have the business plan available, then we are really interested to see it, and then you will get a decision very soon, and maybe we will support this. But to create a process, a developing process, how we can implement the financial representatives in our processes, this is my biggest challenge.
For me, it's really important to have the public sector in the innovation for SMEs, because they will reduce the risk, the financial risk for the companies. The problem is the lack of agility. And it's okay for the beginning, but we have some public collectivities with us, and the decision is really long. When you want to move, when you want to do something, the decisions are really, really long. So it's good at the beginning because it's a reduction of risk, but after, I think we have to find a solution to become more independent.
You're addressing a very interesting area. As an example, I can say that we are trying to now form a GovTech incubator to see how we can find demand-driven innovations, and where the public sector is, of course, is the customer as well as the supplier. So we need more cooperation, and we need more test beds and opportunities to see how we can find new inventions. So it's very important.
Okay, that's thanks for your answers. Last question.
Thank you. You all work in organizations that promote knowledge exchange. One thing I learned from a good friend of mine in Gothenburg, Professor in several years ago, is that openness needs to be managed. So I wonder, what kind of tools, what methods do you use within your organizations to manage the openness that you want to have?
Answer in 1 minute. Try it.
Also here, cooperation projects, what I don't explain was, in each of the cooperation projects, I have research center and universities are present. And all money what we collect in the project, we give to these researchers, and we take their knowledge, and with the use cases we implement the knowledge from the researchers directly in their companies by working on doing. And it's, let's say, after 18 years working on this, it works, because the companies now know when I phone them and invite them to come, they have to pay in and not get funding money out. All what they get is access to young people, to students, to the professors, and they have the decision to create their use case, what they want at the end have. And after 2 years, I know learning by doing, and this is also one secret, the whole company have to be invited. It makes no sense to have only the project manager. He is, let's say, the poor pig in the company. No, you have to have the management, you have the complete, all departments of the company, they have to know what happens in the project, and this is the reason why we say enterprise, because enterprise is the enterprise, and who from the management want not to be on the enterprise, on the experience travel.
It's okay, I have nothing to add. I think the whole company should be involved.
Well, one thing our organization has done is we moved from being a member-owned organization, non-profit, to today we just work with networks. Before, the members were sort of demanding, what can I get? I paid my fee, what can I get back? So now we changed and say, what can you do for us? So we work through networks and open up both nationally and internationally. And I think that I can comment on saying that it's important also to see when we want to see change and to bring companies to work together, to see where is the stop? Is it from the owners, the board, the management, or the bottom part? And to see how can we help that? And also when we do improvement, it's important to see, can we help to show that you will actually earn money or earn something better from joining the project? So I think it's different perspectives you have to take into account.
Okay, thank you for this short answer. I think that outset we are 2 minutes. We have 2 minutes. We will stop, I think, the sessions. And thank you for your attention. I think that we could warmly applaud our 3 speakers.